in which I remind everybody that free and respectful speech, you can take any position, any attitude you want, but to be free and respectful, and that those are only guide rules. Oh, there's a new guide rule: don't attack the host.
I was going to add that one.
Yeah, well, I'm sensitive. Okay, now I'm going to toss in a bit of breaking news from Israel, and there is a ministry that deals with diaspora affairs. Now, you know that diaspora is the good word, gola, galut, exile is the bad word. So the ministry to deal with relations between Israel and the rest of the Jewish world. Very important. For the last 2 years, Nachman Shai has been a minister and widely regarded as a progressive individual, moderate in his politics, and a really good position for him to have. That was great. He is now out of office, and the new person coming in, or now is in, is a man whose name is Amichai Shikli, Chikli. Not important to remember. The ministry is important. He changed the name of the ministry from Ministry of Diaspora Affairs to Ministry of Diaspora Affairs and the Struggle Against Anti-Semitism. So he has enlarged his mandate, and he's doing his thing, which is fine. So apparently, instead of just working on developing good relationships between the diaspora and Israel, he wants to be of help in protecting or whatever, promoting a safe diaspora for the Jewish people. None of that is big news. Fine. Nothing objectionable, which is, I'm sorry that I mentioned it. I could mention that he is the son of a conservative rabbi. So he is the son of a conservative rabbi. And he lives on Kibbutz Hanaton. Now, you maybe won't know Hanaton. There are two reform kibbutzim, Yahel and Lotan, much older, and they're in the Negev, and the Arava, excuse me. And there is a conservative kibbutz in the north, in the Galilee, called Hanaton. So Shikli is the son of a conservative rabbi who has chosen to make his home in the only conservative kibbutz. The kibbutz is now no longer officially affiliated with the conservative movement, but it still has a history. Last year, he was the first member of the Knesset to break with Naftali Bennett, because Naftali Bennett decided that he was going to form a government with Arab participation. Now he has expressed the full range of his activities. The full range is he hates Reform Judaism. He has openly spoken of the fact that conservative is useless, but reform is horrible. Yay! So the Minister of Diaspora Affairs, dealing with the largest Jewish community outside of Israel, in which the largest single community in that community is the Reform community, he has decided that he wants nothing to do with Reform Jews. No, he's not a secular Jew. He is Sukasa. he is to the right religiously. He has moved to the right of his father, to the right of Hanaton, so far to the right that he is comfortable in attacking us. He also believes that the pride flag, right? The pride flag, you with me with that? The pride flag is one of the standard symbols of anti-Semites and anti-Zionists. So anyone who flies the pride flag is opposed to the state of Israel. He is the minister of diaspora affairs. I already said that, okay? He also says, and this is the last point, this is how I deal with Shickley. He's done. The last point is anyone who criticizes Israel is an anti-Semite. So those are the qualifications of the man tasked with creating warm relationships between Israel and the diaspora and in combating anti-Semitism to make life better for the Jews in the diaspora. I'll take a couple of questions and then we're going to go on. I see Steve, I see Susie.
I have two quick questions. One of them is, where does he get his ideas about the pride flag? There's been an issue with feminists and the intersectionality of Zionism, but not the entire LGBTQ community.
You forgot plus. I can't tell you, Steve. I can't tell you, this is the first time I have heard any serious person say the pride flag is an anti-Zionist symbol.
And does he, and my second question is, when he says saying anything that's anti-Israel, does it matter what the context is, or even if it's a comment specific to a policy and not the country? Is there any nuance to the position?
You're an attorney. I carefully chose my words. I think I said anything
against Israel, but what if it's just against Bibi?
He is perfectly willing to wipe out that whole thing. He is an extremist who has moved from the center right, far right, and now he's in charge of us. So I just thought everyone would feel good about that, and it's a good way to begin the day. Susie, the anti-Semite. I can't hear you.
I'm very critical of Israel lately, so I guess I'm an anti-Semite.
Yes, you are. And I will send your name to Mr. Shickley, and I will make certain that he finds you.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Hi, Rabbi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Who's where?
so in his extremities.
Okay. He is an extremist. The only reason I mentioned it is as the positions are being filled, we have to know who the people are who are given major responsibility. This is a major
I
responsibility.
have a germane question. How does he feel about the money? Because I'm one of these anti-Semites like Sukasa. How does he feel about the money that I send to Israel if I buy a bond or if I make a contribution? Will he be sending that money back?
No, he won't. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, I see Harv.
Yeah, would you take a guess on how much the donations to Israel are going to drop? Have any
Yes.
idea?
Yes, very little.
You think it'll just be the same?
You asked me a very important question, Harv, and it's almost like you're, like you deal with numbers all the time. The Israel bonds sales, which begin the new year in January, so I can talk about a couple of weeks in, and the big prime minister's missions and all that stuff, happening right now, all signs are for, at worst, stability.
But what about other forms of giving? In other words, foreign aid from other countries? Would that drop?
Okay, that is a more complicated thing, which, however, I can't answer. Will Israel suffer financially? My concern is, will Israel suffer politically much more than financially? It's if these countries start really protesting against Israel and voting against or refusing to, whatever, that's bad news. Short of that, Israel's economy is strong. The donations coming from the United States and the rest of the world, mainly the United States, are at worst stable, and it's not going to be financial. It's not going to be financial. It very likely could be political. Okay, Risa.
You just answered the question. I was going to say, what about Federation? How's Federation doing? You're saying stable.
Stable. By the way, at a time like this, with all the financial stuff going on, stable is strong.
And what about what about the reform movement? Are those, what's going on with the donations to the IMPJ right now? Are they stable or better or what?
Do you intend to cause me pain? Is that how this works? Okay. The major driver of fundraising for the reform movement in Israel was ARTSA, and then ARTSA became absorbed into the URJ, so it would be the URJ. Dollars are dropping. Membership is dropping, but that's okay because active support for Israel in general is dropping in the reform movement. That's a crisis. It's dropping if you start interviewing first, second, third year rabbinic students, those who will be out being rabbis for the next 50 years, God willing. And their attachment to Israel coming into the Hebrew College is damaged. And that means, and if you start changing things right now, that means 2 generations of damage. That's what that means. I'm really glad you asked that question. Okay, I see Rebecca. Rebecca.
I want to go back just a couple steps because the new Speaker of the Knesset is gay. Amir Ohana. M.K. Amir Ohana is an openly gay man. He's Speaker of the Knesset. So how does
Your
he
question?
fit the person you're talking about?
Okay. The nice thing is members of the coalition have already called Ohana despicable, and they will never talk with him. They don't care what job he holds. They don't care what the coalition is.
That's horrible.
Yeah. The ultra-Orthodox in the coalition have singled Ohana out and said that he is just almost too disgusting to think about. And they're not happy at all. You know, it's like when you watch coalitions, there's a coalition, will it survive? Ohana represents a problem to the coalition. And I would say that particularly represents a problem to the coalition. There are loads of problems, but there are also great benefits. The ultra-Orthodox will not leave the coalition over Ohana because they have been granted in the coalition agreement millions of new dollars. Period. So on the one hand, principle, he's disgusting. On the other hand, lots of will stay. You know me, I'm not cynical. Merle?
Will HUC continue to send students, the first year students? And will students have a choice to go or not go their first year? And I guess this applies to JTS too, because they don't send their students the first year, but somewhere along their second year, third year? Okay, so will they continue as well?
The only thing I have a little bit of information about is the Hebrew College. Of all the things that have been challenged in the financial restructuring, which caused the closing of the Cincinnati branch of the
Right.
Hebrew College, the Jerusalem campus is solid. Why is it solid? I actually think I mentioned this once before here, because they have produced close to 140 or so rabbis serving in Israel. That's it.
Right.
It's like they're making a product, Merle.
But
and
it's
the
safe?
Product, I think it's safe. Now,
Okay.
the question about sending students the first year is currently under secret review.
Okay,
So all the people listening in on the tape and all of you are under the cone of silence. The issue is going to be, on the one hand, we need to produce more rabbinic students. The numbers continue to drop. It's not stable. The numbers of applicants and accepted, and one would therefore worry about quality, but I'm not going to go there. The number of students applying is down. And one of the obstacles being mentioned is I can't leave home for a year to be in Israel. Okay? And that is being explored. That is not a financial or even ideological thing. Remember I said before with the ultra-Orthodox, money and principle, they go for money. Well, in this conversation, ideology and increasing student applications take priority. That's got to be. Merle, I can say it very simply. When you approach a potential donor and say, our rabbinic school applications are up 10% this year, whatever, okay?
Right.
Then you have a chance of getting there's no question. Applications important. No question for a bunch of people, and I'm going to say this specifically, second career applicants. 40-year-old people, lawyers, social workers, whatever they are, teachers who want to now go to rabbinic school, have kids, have family. They can't take a year off. They can't disappear from their family. That's the end of the story, because I don't know where it's going to go. But you asked a specific question, and I'm saying under the cone of silence, not to be quoted, that this is necessarily being looked at. Do I expect a change? Stanley, uninformed, living as a homeless person on the beach? Yes. I don't know what that change will be. They're going to have to do some changes. Steve.
I know there's a huge shortage of rabbis, but how does it compare to the decline in congregations?
You're
and
echoing a
needs?
lot.
I said, I know there's a decline in rabbinical students and we need them, but isn't there also a huge decline in the number of congregations and rabbinical posts? So to what extent does that impact the amount of shortage there is?
I would challenge the use of the word huge. No, there is not a huge shrinkage of congregations.
Oh, good.
Within congregations, a number of congregations who've had 3 or 4 rabbis may choose now to go to 2 or 3. That's the loss of a position, not a congregation. The union 20 years ago spoke about recent, what was it, 930, 940 congregations, and now they're talking 870, 880. Yes. But the problem is really not the loss of opportunity, it's the loss of applicants. How do I know? Because Reform congregations are increasingly hiring graduates of the Academy of Jewish Studies or from the Hebrew College. They have positions to fill, and they aren't finding HUC grads to fill it. So that would be my evidence. Okay, I'm going to stop now and go to the topic of the day. This was just a little, Grandma used to call it Vorspeise,
Nosh. That was
an appetizer. Not a nosh. No, not a nosh, a Vorspeise. It's a blini with some caviar. Okay. I received a request, and I welcome these requests, to approach a specific topic today, the topic of Black Hebrews. And I indicated to you that I intend to discuss this, but you know the sinkholes that have opened up in some of the Los Angeles streets? Right, the sinkholes, 2 cars swallowed up in one last night. I am now entering the sinkhole, and I know it. So let me try to ask you and the thousands of people watching this on recording, listen to what I'm about to say. My conversation about Black Hebrews is about an organization, multiple organizations dealing with a specific type of community. It has absolutely, hear this, nothing to do with Jews of color. This is a different conversation. I beg you, hear the difference. We are not talking about Jews of, I said that, not talking about Jews of color. We are talking about the Black Hebrew community in all of its variety and manifestations. Secondly, we are not talking about Ethiopian Jews. Please hold on to that. Those are totally different communities. The linkage between Ethiopian Jews and the Black Hebrew community is zilch, which is a technical term. And the same goes for Jews of color. The Jews of color now representing within the American Jewish community, thank God, maybe 13% of the community, and the number is rising. And I say, thank God, I think it's great, it's wonderful, but has nothing to do with Black Hebrews. May I stop there? Is there a question? Did I not make myself clear? Okay, Sukasa.
I've never heard that term. Can you define what you mean by the Black Hebrew community?
All this, yes, that's what I'm going to do. Now, here I go, and I prepared carefully. Black Jewish relations are in the headlines again. Kanye West, Kyrie Irving, these names should be meaningful to you. It's really important stuff, should be meaningful. Anyone not know either Kanye West, Kyrie Irving? And if so, I will explain. You're all good? Super. Okay. Now, the latest addition to the list of worrisome people is Whoopi Goldberg, who has 3 times over the past 6 or 8 months found occasion to come out with weird statements about the Holocaust. Not 2 weeks ago. Last week, she was suspended from 2 weeks again from The View in punishment. It doesn't stop her. So we've got a problem with Whoopi, and it's a shame because in Ghost, she was fabulous in a few other places, but we've got a problem and we should know
Not
that.
punishing her sufficiently. That's not enough of a punishment. 2 weeks? I mean, what does that mean? She goes right back and becomes obnoxious again.
Are you saying she's a Black Hebrew community
No,
person?
no,
Okay.
no,
She's an anti-Semite is what she is.
no. Other than that, you're right. No.
Oh,
I have
what?
no reason to believe that Whoopi Goldberg is an anti-Semite. I do have strong reason to believe that she has a warped view of history, forcing her to sell truth for fill in the blank. I don't know. But specifically, her comments deal with the Shoah was a white on white thing. It has nothing to do with the Black community because we are dealing with racial questions. And that's almost a fair statement of what Whoopi said, was punished for, apologized for, and has now repeated 2 more times. Now, the fact that the Nazis viewed the Jews as a racial problem does not enter her head. She doesn't get it. I have to leave it there. Is she an anti-Semite? No.
Really?
Is she weird about the Holocaust so that it's important for her to keep saying things which really anger the Jewish community and, thank God, a much bigger community? There's something weird going on with Whoopi, and I have to leave it there. I don't know enough to give an analysis. I can just say it's happening. Now, here we go. Kanye West, Kyrie Irving, and now I mentioned Whoopi Goldberg. I referenced the forward, which used to be called the Yiddish forward, which used to be called the Vorwärts
Orbits, yeah.
back in the old days when it was published in Yiddish. On January 10th, published a full article on Black Hebrews. If you want to go into your files, go find the forward essay on, by the way, Steve, referring to Steve Miller, who asked the initial question, that was one of the worst essays I have ever read in the forward. It was amazingly poor. And I'm shocked by that. Why publish if you don't have a serious, well-researched, articulate essay? It failed the smell test. Now, starting off now with the question Susie and others have asked. Black Hebrews. They have multiple names because there are multiple groups and it can get confusing. Black Hebrews, Black Hebrew Israelites, Black Israelites. There are just all kinds of names because there are a number of groups. Some of the groups of Black Hebrews claim to follow Talmudic law. Some groups of Black Hebrews say that all white-skinned Jews are imposters. Any white-skinned person calling themselves a Jew is an imposter. Some say all Black people are really Jews. You have to understand, you're not expected to understand, I had to do a lot of research myself. The weak essay in the foreword spoke in projections that might represent 4% of the American Black population. Are Black Israelites, Black Hebrews, Black whatever. That number is an exaggeration. It's smaller than that. We are talking about a small, relatively restricted group, but they are having increasing presence in the press. Black Hebrews, Black Israelites, however refer to them, are as movements, groups, approximately 125 years old. In trying to find origin, you might find origin in South America, specifically in Suriname. That is considered to be one of the start places. There are slave communities established as slave communities in the Caribbean, tracing themselves back to Africa, who claim that they were intermixed with Jewish slave traders, and some of them converted in some kind of a way to something like a Black Hebrew Jewish identity, and they brought that with them. In other words, how did it get to Suriname? How did it get to anywhere? One source would have been intermixing with Jewish slave traders operating in Africa. Sukasa, does Kanye West think of himself as Black Hebrew? Is that the rest of your question? I will tell you that's an excellent question, because he has expressed solidarity with Black Hebrews. That's not the same as identity, right? But he has, now we go on. Besides the slave communities, maybe in Ethiopia, maybe the 2,000-year-old, maybe older, Ethiopian Jewish community, it's in Africa. Maybe they had connections with other tribes, nations, whatever. Some of Judaism leached into their identities, and they brought, in other words, it's unclear. It's a mix. Some of them had their own revelations. Their leaders had revelations declaring themselves to be the true chosen people, people of God, the true Israelites, and everyone else is fake. As I wrote my notes, part of me wanted to say, you know, will you give up on these revelations, okay? And it was just Stanley speaking to Stanley. And then I thought of the Mormon community. And the Mormon community owes its origin to revelations, okay? And not that long ago. So this mix is not reserved for Black Hebrews or Mormons. It happens. Now, there is in the Black Hebrew community a huge amount of syncretism. syncretism, syncretism. Anyone have an idea about what syncretism means? You probably do. Syncretism. It's when groups and communities absorb things from each other, take from the other, adopt from the other. Syncretistic religious communities sometimes look really weird because it's like they're taking their religion from a smorgasbord. I'll take the Holy Ghost and Passover. You understand? That's how a syncretistic religion could function. And by the way, that's not an imaginary syncretism. Some worship Jewishly through Christ, their word, some buffet religion, some worship Jewishly through the Holy Spirit. The Black Hebrew experience is a syncretistic experience in which they have melded together elements from a whole variety of religious experiences and organizations. Now, why do people care right now? There is a great deal of violence and hate speech associated with many of the Black Hebrew groups in the United States. Violence meaning on the streets of New York, physical attacks. Violence meaning what you understand it to be. The Black Hebrews do not have a Vatican with one centralized authority. There are many, many groups. Every effort made, to my knowledge, by these groups to become affiliated officially with the Jewish community have been rejected. There is no basis to find an authentic link that would make them acceptable. There was precisely that which made the Ethiopian Jewish community acceptable. Of course they're Jewish. Nothing to do with race, had to do with, oh, yeah, you've been at this for 2,000 years. That's enough. Do you want to make a contribution to Federation? We'll take your, no, okay. But they're recognized as Jewish. The Black Hebrew movements, in their syncretism, in their vast number of differences, have never been able to earn any kind of acceptance by any structure of the formal American Jewish community. Trust me, this is one of the sources of anger. Okay? Beyond that, it's who's real. And many of these groups look at white Jews as not real. And find it religiously important to drive us out of the synagogues that they should be inhabiting. Okay. What about Black Hebrews or Black Israelites? Why didn't they call themselves Black Jews? That is a question which I am posing to you. remember that post-Civil War, around that time, is when these groups really arose. That was a hint. What was the original name of the Organization of Reform Congregations?
The
What was it?
UAHC,
Please give us all the words, Steve.
Union of American Hebrew Congregations. And when we landed in Atlanta for the convention, the cab driver said to us, "Are you here for the Hebrews?"
Okay. Think about the fact that our earliest organizational structure from the late 1800s referred to us as Hebrews. We didn't want our name to contain the word Jewish. Why?
The protocol
Wasn't that a-
Italian.
Now, pay heed to try to understand where the name came from. So if you're going to talk about what we would call a Jewish community, the Jews in the late 1800s we were referring to ourselves as Hebrews. Okay, so that's clean. What about the word Israelite? Isaac Mayer Wise, of blessed memory, our founding father, Isaac Mayer Wise, Rabbi Isaac Mayer Wise, is the one who created the Hebrew Union College and the Union of American Hebrew Congregations, and through them, the Central Conference of American Rabbis. Isaac Mayer Wise, I love Isaac Mayer Wise, not only because his bust is all over all the buildings of the Hebrew Union College. You know, we would refer to him lovingly as Itzy Mayer. Itzy Mayers was a journalist as well, a very successful journalist who founded one of the most important Anglo-Jewish newspapers in the United States from his headquarters in Cincinnati. Anyone know the name of the newspaper he founded?
The forward, the Forwards, no?
No, that's Yiddish Eastern European. Nah, he would have had nothing to do with that. The American Israelite. The American Israelite. So why would Black Hebrews or Black Israelites or Israelite Hebrew, whatever, why would they use those terms? Because they were the terms we used. Okay, even though today it sounds strange, when the union, UAHC, changed its name from the Union of American Hebrew Congregations. Listen, folks, what is the current name of the Reform congregational structure?
Union for Reform Judaism.
Union for Reform Judaism. The putting of Judaism in the title was a huge move of self-confidence. Okay, we treat it like, you like it. Well, old timers like me remember when we couldn't get Jew in those titles, we were Hebrews, and then Jews came in only, and now acceptable. But calling ourselves URJ was actually a major step declaring our self-confidence. It was so major that when Alex Schindler of blessed memory as president of the UAHC, announced, brought up to a vote at the Union Biennial, 5,000 people, that we're going to change our name. This is after a lot of years of process. He made one of the few mistakes in his life. He had nifty kids, the teenagers, nifty, the National Federation of Temple Youth, as it was known as. He had the nifty kids march into the convention carrying placards on which the new stationery was printed. We are a cantankerous lot. When the assembled body saw that Alex had created the stationery before they voted upon it, they tabled it for 2 years and only then approved it. But that was one of those where you had to be there. There's the kids, kids, we're doing this. And the serious people in that convention were having massive hernias. How could this be? We haven't approved it. Enough. That's a little bit of fun history. We eventually did. But that's where Jewish replaced Hebrew and Israelite. Okay, so the early American name for Jews, Hebrews.
Rabbi,
and
what year
Israelites.
was that again?
73.
Okay, you got me. I don't have the year. I mean, Google will tell you. I'm sorry.
Approximately.
I mean, it's in the 70s, right, Reese?
70s, okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the 70s. I don't remember exactly when. Late 70s, I think.
Okay, I mean, Google will tell us. I have hands up. I see Risa hand up who's not using her electronic hand.
I just wanted to comment on the fact that you haven't mentioned Hebrew Union College.
Risa would like me to mention that it's not the Jewish Union College, it's the Hebrew Union College. And remember, Isaac Mayer Wise started them both. So if you have the Union of American Hebrew, you see, Union and Hebrew, and the college became the Hebrew Union. Okay? You have to, folks. I don't know how this happened. You have to watch people carefully. The Hebrew Union College changed its emblem about 10 years ago. It's not really emblem, whatever it is, the thing that goes on all the
Logo.
stations. Pardon?
Logo.
Logo, okay, logo. And I was sitting as a member of the board of advisors, and once again, the new logo is put out there, something which, vote yes, here it is, all done. Some of you may know that I have a little reluctance to be treated that way. I looked at the logo and I said to the dean who had presented it, did anyone notice that the original logo of the Hebrew Union College has a Hebrew phrase in the logo, and now there is no Hebrew in the logo? I do not intend to look for friendships. This created a firestorm. No one had noticed. Sadly, they went back and they adopted it without the Hebrew. Left me forever furious. It's one thing not to have had it in, it's something else to remove it. Now, mainstream Jewish, did I miss somebody? We got 8 minutes. Mainstream Jewish organizations reject the authenticity of the Black Hebrews. The Black Hebrews call this Jewish racism.
Rabbi,
I'm sorry, who?
It's Brad. Can I ask a
Brad, hi,
question?
Brad. Brad, are you,
Hello,
okay?
about the preference for the word Hebrew in the 19th century. I'm wondering, it's a two-part question. If that is somehow connected with the legacy of slavery, if there's some connection there between the use of the word Hebrew rather than Jew, echoing back to our period in slavery. And second question, is the word Jew a biblical term? I know the word Hebrew is, but is the word Jew found in the Torah?
In the Torah, we are not called Jews. One of the reasons why Black Hebrews today, Brad, reject changing their name to, well, Steve trumped me on this, but that's what I was going to say, because Jew comes from Judah, and the Black Hebrews do not claim that Judah is the original people of Israel. So they reject Jew because it derives from Judah. Okay? So that Brad is somehow an answer. I have to say something else. You know, I am so wary. I do not want, and I beg that if I misspeak, when I misspeak, you stop me and correct me. The African American community feels a direct connection with the Jewish community because of the Exodus. The Exodus from slavery is magnificently embedded within the culture of the African American community in America. It is. And there is great respect, and that connection is as precious as gold. Because they experienced what we experienced in the Torah, and that is the foundation block of our healthy relationships. Okay? Am I making that really clear? It's important to me. We're not talking about mainstream African Americans. We're talking about 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people, but they are becoming way too visible and way too problematic, but does not reflect on our connection with the African American community, so that I invite you to come to services Friday evening at Wilshire Boulevard, where an African American church will have, and I know the choir, a magnificent choir participating in our services that evening as part of the Martin Luther King weekend observance.
If you've never been there, it's wonderful. Don't miss it.
Amen. Amen. It is that. We are expecting to have a... I can't hear you.
It's a huge crowd. There's food.
Someone said something.
5:30, and you must register. So just get online and register. And the other part of that is that many of us are going to the church, Faith Baptist Church, Faith Bible, whatever it is. We're
On
going
Sunday. On Sunday.
Say it again.
Faithful Central Bible Church.
Central Bible Church, right? Faithful.
So we just
Sunday morning, and everybody
just need to be
fabulous.
able to
You
keep-
have no idea. There'll be more than 1,000 people there, an orchestra, a huge choir, and Bishop Ulmer. It is really, I unfortunately cannot go, but otherwise I wouldn't miss it. It's really
So
something to go to.
I'm happy to make this plug as a way of trying to reinforce my fear in raising the topic at all, okay? That you need to be able to separate out. And I beg you to separate clearly. We're really running out of time. I need to go one more place. There is no reason not to respect Black Hebrews for their religious orientation. The violence, the hate, we can combat. But to say that they're fake, false, using that kind of language is absolutely inappropriate. Next, I want to mention the Black community in Israel, which is not Ethiopian. There was in the 1960s a major flow of American Blacks from Chicago to the town of Dimona. Dimona, which is the site of the non-existent Israeli nuclear reactor. You can see it, but it doesn't exist. They moved in the 1960s. This is a totally different community. A number of them have converted to Judaism. Whatever their claims of identity prior, they went to the Rabbanut and they converted to Judaism. Some did not convert to Judaism, but became naturalized Israeli citizens under the normal process of naturalization. Yes, they were naturalized Israeli citizens, not Jewish, but naturalized citizens. Some of the Dimona community, their young people, serve in the Israel Defense Forces. Some of the people, and this has created friction, have continued to come from their Chicago origins on tourist visas, and they don't leave. Joe Biden isn't the only one with trouble at the borders. So there has been stress. But I want to say that the Dimona Black American community has much that commits itself to Israel and to the Jewish state. It's a mix. I can't clarify that. It's a mix. The Dimona community is syncretistic. They're vegan. Okay. I don't know how you can be Jewish and not eat brisket, but fine. They're vegan. They have multiple wives. That's Torah. But we haven't had that for a while. They have one thing in common with the Black Hebrews. The Dimona community, many of whom are Jewish, and the Black Hebrew, little scattered but interesting communities, both view themselves as the authentic Jewish people. That they have in common. This was a difficult class to prepare for. I appreciate your responses and the way in which you addressed it. I'm going to take 2 minutes, though we've run over. If there are any specific narrow questions that I can handle, because, I never have talked about this in public. It took a lot of prep. Steve, thank you for the question. And
Well, thank you for dealing with it.
Thank you for the discussion. It's amazing.
okay, it is, we are an interesting people.
Yes,
Oh. Yesterday I was at the mikveh working as part of a Beit Din with Wilshire Boulevard, one of the three rabbis doing that stuff. The mikveh is in the American Jewish University. Their founding document reads mikveh, M-I-K-V-E-H.
interesting.
They just had an official name change to M-I-K-V-A-H. I walked in yesterday, Stanley Dumb. Looks like the name's changed. Yes, M-I-K-V-E-H is too Ashka-centric.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, gosh. Jesus.
Mikvah is what Hebrew calls for, not mikveh, mikvah. And so we have crushed another center of Ashka-centrism. I don't know. Okay. So now it's a mikvah and not a mikveh. We are a strange people, a very good people, a very beautiful people. I hope to see you Friday evening. It's going to be, I think it'll be magnificent.
Stanley, does that make the mikvah feminine?
Mikvah is feminine in Hebrew.
And
It
mikveh?
is Yiddish.
Oh,
Yiddish is not
So-
responsible for grammar. It doesn't do grammar very much. So,
where does it go? Didn't the building get sold or isn't it up for sale?
yeah, I don't want to go into that now. That's a whole different thing, but it's
Okay,
the mikvah.
sorry.
Love you all. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you tonight.
See you yes, tonight.
See you Friday evening.
See you tomorrow, Robert. Shopping day.